Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Well, are we heading towards more food shortages? Panic buying? Empty shelves? That's all we're hearing about. Well, we're hearing about the election still, of course, but about the only other thing that's really being kind of talked about and buzzing around online is coming food shortages. Is there really a food shortage, or is this just another engineered thing to get everyone panicked over? Honestly, I'm kind of somewhere in between on this one. I think that it's a little bit of both. And I do believe that we need to, if you're not ready, you need to get ready for it. Thank you for stopping by to watch. If you don't mind, click that like and subscribe button and off to the side the little bell. Hopefully you'll get notified by doing that I'm putting up new videos, but with all the YouTube shenanigans going on, you never know. They're doing their best to try to suppress content like this that you find here on this channel and others like mine. So, well, one thing that's going on is this trucker strike. Now, I'm not an expert on this. I'm not a trucker. My father was. But I've been kind of looking around. I even joined some Facebook groups on this, stop the tires and all that kind of stuff, just to see if there was anything to it. Basically, it was a bunch of guys was going to stop running yesterday for Veterans Day, and then I guess they're going to do it again at the end of this month, the 24th through the 29th or something like that. Number one, and this isn't coming from me, this is coming from someone that's an actual trucker. He said, truckers are like herding cats. He says, you're not going to get enough of them to do that. So is it anything that, would it be a threat? Is it possible? Would it actually do anything? Well, I tell you this, if there were enough to shut down trucking or at least slow it down greatly, that would certainly affect our whole supply system, because there's hardly anything that you don't touch, use, or consume, or anything somehow that doesn't at some point in its distribution chain ride in the back of an 18-wheeler. So if those guys really pull it off and do an all-on strike, it could be a big disruption. The funny thing is they say they're doing it because of the whole election. But if you read on the news, Fox News and a few others I've seen are saying that they're protesting, that they're doing this protest because of fracking. Right. Because all these truckers, that the vast majority of them aren't delivering anything to do with fracking. That's what they care about? I highly doubt it. You get on the groups, and they're not talking about fracking. The one group, they're the biggest one that I'm on. I think there's 15,000 people in it. They're not all truckers. But there's quite a few guys in there saying that they're going to participate in this trucking strike. If they do it, and if enough of them do it, it could certainly cause disruptions in the supply chain. For most, I say this all the time, and it's true, most communities, most towns, cities, and it doesn't matter how small they are and how big they are, have a 3-day supply of food. That's it. And what that means is if the town, community, grocery store, whatever it is, if they are cut off from the supply chain, they last about 3 days before they run out of food. That's how it is, because of how the whole supply chain works. You're getting deliveries just as you run out. They don't want these stores having massive stockpiles. Most of the stores' stockpiles or stock is on the shelf. They don't have huge warehouses in the back of the grocery store full of food. Most of it, it's what's on the shelf and that's it. So it would not take long to run out of food. So if a real trucking strike happens, it could certainly affect it. I do think that aside from that, a lot of what we're hearing in the news is very engineered. It's this push to get people afraid, and you've got to stock up, and it's crazy if you check out the news, all these local news stations, and even some of the big ones. Um, they'll tell you that, oh, there's food shortages, and that there's people buying up, and they're buying more, and they're stockpiling. But don't stockpile. I mean, buy stuff, get some things, but don't hoard things. They send all these mixed messages. We've been hearing for the last few months, that grocery stores themselves have been stockpiling food in preparations for potential food shortages. Governments have been stockpiling food. There was an article or a news report several months back, 3 or 4 months maybe, um, about the state of Washington, of how they were had warehouses full of food that they were stockpiling, and they were saying that there were other states doing the same. So there's that. Add that to this rapidly increasive numbers in this health crisis. I don't know if you guys have been noticing that. Several states and cities are already either starting to, reinstitute lockdown orders, or they're at least talking about it. And with the election and the nature of how that is going, and the fact that the media confirmed president-elect that's all he's talking about. That's all Biden is talking about, is the virus and what we have to do to stop it, and mask mandates and all this kind of stuff. And I have a gut feeling that that's going to be the thing that he tries to do to show that should be the next president, that he already has that authority to convince the people and to convince governors and mayors and stuff to go ahead and pass these ordinances and these laws to enforce lockdowns and ordinances and stuff for face coverings. So if you have that, and the fact that most of the food supply chain in the system is still not recovered from the last, this past March and April, where everyone was rushing to the stores and we saw a rapid depletion of stock pile and back stock and food and everything. They still haven't really recovered from that. So they're going into this second wave and into this crazy election cycle, and potential trucking, strikes, with an already depleted and unstable, food supply. And then on top of that, you've got holidays coming up, which people are buying more food for that typically. And it's also winter. And most people, they don't eat out as much at wintertime. It's cold, especially if you live in the colder regions. A lot of people are staying home more. That's just normal. And then for those folks that live in regions where the weather can get, quite harsh at times in the wintertime, and they typically have more food sitting around the house in case they get shut in for a few days. So when you add all that together, the chances of there being actual shortages in grocery stores, I think, are pretty high. Whenever I talk about this, I always get the comments that, well, I work on a big farm in the middle of Nebraska, and we've had bumper crops this year, and, other farmers around me are producing more than they've ever produced, or, I work at, such and such place where we process corn, and we have tons of it, so there's no shortage. No one's really saying that there's a shortage at that end of it. Although, crop shortages can be a very regional thing. So maybe in your area was a really good year, but in other areas there wasn't. And the fact that our food system is global, okay? It's not dependent on just the corn or the whatever in your area. It's dependent on the whole planet. It's a very global system. And if you look at the things that are happening around the planet, they're greatly going to negatively affect everyone. Also, many governments have been stockpiling and buying extra, um, and so I think that there's probably less on the market than normal because of all of this. So when you add all of these things together, the chances of there being shortages more so than there already is, because you know most people are seeing that, probably have seen it ever since the beginning of this, that there are times that your shelves just aren't as full as they normally should be, or that they once were. We see it even around here. Does that mean that there's major shortages around here? No, but there are, bare shelves a whole lot more than there were a year or two ago. It's not as bad as it was, but you can tell that the stores aren't able to maintain what they once were. And so all of this combined, could there be shortages coming very soon? I think so. I think with all the increase in COVID numbers that we're seeing, and that with the election turmoil and nervousness of the people, the news media is going to start hammering that. I just know that they are. I mean, I know they're already talking about it, but I think they're going to, because people are starting to get tired. I think people are getting tired of hearing the election, 24/7. So the next thing is they're going to, terrify the people that of the all these increasing numbers of this, deadly disease that kills a fraction of a percent of the population. And it's going to cause them to rush out and buy. Just talking about it, just the news talking about uh, people going out and buying food is going to cause people to go out and buy food. So this is one of those things. You should get ready for it. Is it a guarantee? Can I absolutely tell you without any doubt in my mind that we are going to see food shortages, that it's going to be difficult for you to get the things that you need over the next 3 or 4 months? No, I can't do that. I don't know that. All I can tell you is, based on what we saw back in March and April and all the variables that are at play right now, the odds of you seeing some level of food shortages over this winter are pretty high, I think. And not just food, toilet papers, obviously. And everyone is obsessed with toilet paper. It cracks me up how people have bought up and continue to buy up and stockpile their toilet paper. I mean, yeah, it's a necessary thing, but I mean, we could just go back to what my grandpa said. They just had a bucket of corn cobs in the outhouse. But there are many other things you should stock up on and make sure that you have plenty of. I mean, that's what we do as preppers: batteries, water, a water filtration system of some sort. I would have at least a couple, in case one breaks down. Always remember, 3 is 2, 2 is 1, 1 is none. So, if your whole life is dependent upon that one filter, and if something happens, then, well, you're, up what creek without a paddle. Medical supplies, make sure you have them. Food, I mean, it's like a broken record, but, your dry staples, those are always important. Canned foods, soups. Canned soups are good, especially those ones that's not condensed, because they're already cooked. So you can literally eat them cold out of the can if you had to. Um, Dried foods, dried fruits, dried jerky, freeze-dried. Freeze-dried stuff is more expensive, but it lasts a long time, and it's pretty easy to reconstitute. Add some boiling water, and then it's ready to eat. Um, Things like aluminum foil. I've heard that over on the West Coast in some places that it's gotten hard to find. Aluminum foil has a lot of good uses. Trash bags, um, you know, cleaning supplies, disinfectants, you know, this kind of stuff. You know, if you need things like ice melt salt stuff for your, you know, if it's for winter time, you probably ought to get that stuff early too. There's probably going to be a lot of panic buying, just like we saw before, but I have a feeling that the panic buying's going to be worse this time around because there's so many more things. You know, back when it happened before, only a few things had happened for 2020. Well, now everyone has dealt with 2020 for all these months and the election, and they know how bad it was then, and they're terrified it's going to be worse because, well, the case numbers are way worse than they were before, because it's all over the country. It's pretty much permeated the population. And so, yeah, there's going to be, you know, it's going to look a lot worse of actual numbers. So, folks, don't know how many more times I can say it without just repeating myself to the point of it's annoying, but here we are. It's what, the second week of November, and we've got, you know, at least for most of us, 3.5 to 4 months of colder weather before spring hits. You know, it doesn't even mean that it'll be great once spring hits, that it'll all bounce back, because who knows what's going to happen with all this, you know, election stuff. We could be in civil war by then. Who knows? The point is you really need to do what you can to stock up. I mean, there's still a lot of people, even though the news isn't talking about it, there's still a lot of people standing in food bank lines, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them, all over the country are still getting a large portion of their food. And we're not talking like people that's been doing that for years. This is new people that have never gotten foods from food banks are, you know, there's still a lot of them that are getting their food that way. Things just don't really look good. They really don't. So please, if you are able to, just keep stocking up. Buy a little extra here and there. If you're able to go out and make a big purchase, do that. And then every time you go out, buy extra of something, to have it stocked up. You know, things like oatmeal, you know, real oatmeal, not the, you know, little packets and stuff, but real oatmeal in the big cans or whatever. Get several of those. It's cheap. Peanut butter's cheap. It's a good protein source. You know, things like this that stock up really well on. Honey lasts forever, and it's a good sugar source. So get ready, folks, because a dark winter is coming. That's right, a dark winter. Made a video of it over on Patreon. I'll be a link in the description below. You can go watch that. Just get ready. Take care of your family, and get stocked up as much as you can. I will remember you in my prayers, and please remember me and my family in yours. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.